Today I wanted to talk about DigitalInk and how it works and go through some of the process. One of the things that I think it's good to go over at the beginning is some of the frequently asked questions, which I've taken from buried deep in the California Association of Realtors website. And I just want to talk a little bit about these, plus some of the legal aspects of digital signatures, and then we're going to go through an example of how to use digital signatures. And if there's any questions, at the end. How much does ZipLogic DigitalInk cost? The answer is nothing. If you're a member of the California Association of Realtors, it's included as one of the member benefits. There are programs that you can pay for. DocuSign, as an example, DigitalInk is included with your membership. How do I send documents for digital signature to my clients? There's an icon in Zip Forms. Everything is done really out of Zip Forms itself, and we're going to go through an example and you'll see it. Can you specify who gets to sign the documents first? Again, we're going to go through an example, but the answer is yes. That you're given a list of the different signers, and you can change the order in which people sign. You can add people, disable people, choose which ones are going to sign. We'll talk more about that. How does the client sign? We'll go through an example, but basically, once you've launched the program, it generates an email that has a link, and then they click on the link, and it takes them to the DigitalInk website, and then they create a password, a PIN number, and they log in. How does identity verification work? One of the questions that I get is there's a little icon in DigitalInk about identity verification. And it's basically using third-party companies to do some verification as to whether or not this is really the person who they say they are. Now, because this is being provided by a third party, it's not included in there's a $5 fee each time you use identity verification. For purposes of legality, does it matter? Does it make it more legal or less legal? It has no effect. So why then would we do it if it doesn't make the signatures more legal? Well, maybe you're dealing with somebody that you haven't met who's out of state or that sort of thing, and you just want to be a little extra careful that they are who they say they are, and basically it's going to generate some questions from the public record for them. It's not exactly like hiring a private investigator or something like that. It's very cursory. It doesn't involve credit information or anything like that. How can I access the documents that my client have signed with digital signatures? You review the signed documents through this e-sign icon. All right, we've mentioned that already, and we're going to look at it when we get into the Zip Forms. You can check the status underneath the e-sign icon. Can you upload non-zip form documents to send to clients to sign using ZipLogic DigitalInk? The answer is yes. You can do that. We're going to go through an example. I'm going to take an office form and I'm going to load it up, and we'll go through how actually you could do that. Locked PDFs, a PDF that has been made by Adobe Acrobat or a similar type program can be locked, which would make it ineligible for use through the DigitalInk program. You need to know that virtually all PDFs are not locked. What ones would be locked? Well, an example is a PDF that you generated from Zip Forms. Supposing you make a form in Zip Forms and you generate that as a PDF, it doesn't like those. There are ways to get around it, but basically you need to make a PDF that's not locked, and there's a lot of ways of doing that through printing and things like that. This is a work in progress. They're adding more services as they go along, including some better features in terms of the collaboration with other documents. What should I do if I sent the document to someone to sign it and they didn't sign it? This comes down to educating your client and being in contact, in communication, education and communication, because there are some people, this isn't as hard as you might think it is. People that are not really computer savvy can figure it out, but you may need to be in communication with people and to let them know that this is happening and that it's coming. Otherwise, they may not do anything with it. If they don't read the email and they don't click on the link and they don't go to the site, then they're not going to sign it. And there's a legal Q&A, which if you have insomnia is really interesting to read. There's a link on the screen, but if you go to the Q&As, you can read all about electronic signatures. I'm going to share a couple things from it at the end of this. What is the difference between ZipLogic, DigitalInk, and DocuSign? DocuSign is a paid-for program that currently has more services than does DigitalInk. DigitalInk is it's working on adding more services, but if you were going to compare them feature for feature, ease of use, you would go with DocuSign, right? If money were not an object, you would go with DocuSign. But the DigitalInk gets the job done, and you're already paying for it through your California Association of Realtors membership, so why not use that? Both of them work with zip forms equally. There's really no difference in one being more legal. Its ease of use and features, DocuSign is better. Can you use ZipLogic DigitalInk on a mobile device? The answer is no. Not yet. I think you can with DocuSign, but I believe so, but you can't with DigitalInk. Again, they say they're working on this too. You can use, however, Zip Form 6 Professional on a bunch of different mobile devices, especially the smartphones, and there's a link to that. By the way, all of this that I'm going through so far, you can find at the California Association of Realtors websites. If you want this link sent to you, let me know. I'll be happy to do so. Why isn't my buyer or seller signature tag showing up on the CO, DA, and SSIA? CO, of course, is the counter offer. DA is dual agency. SSIA is the short seller information advisory. I'm going to go through an example using one of these forms. But these are the thing that these three forms have is the same, is that you don't necessarily know who's the buyer and who's the seller based upon what line they're signing on, because it flip-flops back and forth depending on who's initiating it at that point. And so I'm going to go through an example. But basically what you do is, well, we're going to go through an example and it's explained there, but it generates two emails essentially. One is for the person as a buyer and the other one is for either as a buyer one or seller one. You'll see when we get to it what we mean by that, because I'm going to go through an example. What does suspend, activate, and cancel mean? If you click the button, DigitalInk, your transaction continue will be automatically suspended until you've completed the editing process. That means that your if you've simply suspended it, then nobody's been invited. You have to hit activate in order to start the invitation process. You can stop the next person from receiving the invitation by suspending it. You can also cancel it, which means that no more, it's not going to be possible for people to continue to sign it. Is there an easy way for the signer to see the next unsigned signature? Hitting the tab button takes you to the next field that requires a signature or initial or that sort of thing. They're not necessarily related fields, but whatever the next field is, that's the way to move through it quickly. There is a little training program for users if they need to, but it isn't that hard for the clients to figure this out. This is from the California Association of Realtors Legal Q&A. Basically asking, are there any CAR forms and zip forms that you shouldn't use with an electronic signature? This is the list. Again, this is available through the legal Q&A on electronic signatures. Most of them, you will notice, have to do with landlord-tenant, but there are two laws that basically are regulating electronic signatures, and landlord-tenants are treated a little bit special. But anyhow, that's the list of ones you're not supposed to use. And this is a question that I've gotten a lot from people. Is it possible that the one person, let's say the buyers sign electronically, can you then print it out, forward it, fax it, email it to the listing agent, and they sign it not electronically? The answer is yes. Now, the two laws that regulate this don't actually discuss this specific issue. However, what you have in front of you is the opinion of the legal department of the California Association of Realtors, which says so long as the parties agree, it is likely acceptable. These are lawyers, of course, for one party to sign electronically. Typically, that's how it's done. You don't necessarily know the client's. If you represent the buyer, you don't know the seller's email address. Most likely you don't. You know the buyer's email address, so the buyers can sign it electronically. Then you might have to email it to the listing agent, fax it, forward it, or somehow take it to them, and then it might be signed differently. That I don't know if that was helpful or not, but I did it anyhow. What I'd like to do is to just go through an example of the basics. Now, what I'm going to do now is what I would encourage you to do if you're, if you haven't used the program before, I'm going to show you a way that you can practice. Now, I'm going to go to my transaction. I think you're using Google Chrome. Google Chrome is not supported, but it always seems to work. Let me see. We'll see if it will let me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to. Let's see, which browser is the most common browser that is used in the world? And the answer is Firefox. And after that, Chrome and Internet Explorer pretty much split. So anyhow, I have to go, bear with me a moment, please. We have to go to the, I have to use a different browser. I don't think it's going to let me. Is it ever going to move? Oh, how about this? Well, Chrome came through. All right, we don't have to go to this one. All right, so what I want to do is, well, I have a lot of them already. What I want to do is to add one of those special documents that, and I'm going to add DA, which is, of course, you know, disclosure and consent to represent. How about this one? Disclosure and consent to represent. Now, if this, where I've highlighted this, I want to look at this particular. How do I add it? I could click Add Selected Form. I could right-click and click Add Selected Form. If I double-click, notice it's already been added. I also can drag and drop. I don't know if not everybody knows that. So let's look at, I just wanted to add this particular one because this one, the counter offer and the short seller information advisory are a little bit different. I guess I had that one. So what we want to do is, first of all, it's always best. Oh, here we go. We already have a cover sheet. What you want to do is add in all your contacts. Now, one thing you may or may not know, but if you were to export your contacts from, let's say, Microsoft Outlook, Google Contacts, Yahoo Contacts, I haven't tried it with any others, and you export that into a comma-separated value file, what will then happen is that you can import those contacts into the system, so that you can use it later and you don't have to fill all this in. And we're going to put down an email address. And let's say we're only going to just do one for here, and we have a seller. And we have an email address. Now notice what I'm doing. We're practicing now, so I'm using my regular email address for both of these. It's possible for more than one party to have the same email address. It will generate 2 emails, but it's possible for more than one party to have the same one. So if a husband and a wife share an email, that's not a problem. This also allows you to practice, because you can keep putting your own, you can try. What I would definitely recommend that you do is that you try this first, right? And then you send it to yourself or friends or something like that. Let's say I'm the selling broker, and all I'm going to do, I'm not going to fill out everything here, but and I'm just enough. All right, so let's pick a let's pick something. Let's do something. Which one? How about RPA? All right, so we put this up here someplace. All right, and all right. So first of all, you're going to need to fill this out. Now, you want to put this date in because this would be the date of the contract, right? So let's say we're doing that date. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is that later you don't necessarily know what day somebody is going to sign or initial it. So we don't want to put those dates in, but the date and the date of the contract we definitely want to put in. And so I don't know how much of this I really have to fill out for it to work, but you want to, if you properly filled out the cover sheet, it would have populated all this. So I haven't done all that, but I just want to make sure you realize that you need to fill out the form completely first. Right? You want to make sure that everything that you need to put in, it has been put in, but be sure not to put in anything where it says date, like down here, initials, or you can't do anything with that. But later in the contract, there are other things that you have to. You don't want to put in other dates, like the date, like in this field here, the date that the buyer signed it. You don't want to put in a date there because that's going to be a date that is going to be inserted when they actually do it. You don't want to put in a date for when the seller, that's something that'll be put in when it's done. And the other thing I just want to call to your attention, because on the purchase contract is where this comes up most often, has to do with arbitration and mediation. And the arbitration and mediation are something that they can't, there's a choice you're going to see later on in the DigitalInk where somebody can click on a button that says sign all. And that would mean that their initial, everything would just automatically be signed at all parts in the transaction. You can't do that with liquidated damages. Liquidated damages, they have to specifically initial in those places, right? And so you can't sign all using that using the purchase contract because those particular fields have to be done separately. It's the law. All right, so let's say that we've actually filled out this form, which we really haven't. But let's say we have. What we would do is we would go up here to where it says e-sign. You see that button up here, and if you click on it, there's two choices. One is sign and one is check status. Once we've clicked on it and started, the check status is available, and this is really the area where you're going to do most of your work. Now, right up, first all, let's take a look up here to the left. It says choose what to sign, and in other words, if I click this, I've unclicked them all. So I could say I don't want him to do. I definitely don't want him to sign the cover sheet. I don't want him to sign. But let's see, which ones do I want him to sign? And if I'm doing, where is it? Let's say the RPA. All right, we'll do that one. So we pick which documents, and we also can change the order. So let's say I put RPA up first, I move it up, but I also want them to do the disclosure regarding agency, and I want them to do that first, right? So I can change the order. I can identify which documents, and even if I wanted to, if I can look at each individual page. If there was some reason, if I double click, I'm double clicking on this little folder icon. If I do that, it shows me the individual pages, and if there was a reason I could select specific pages. That's not necessarily something I want to do, but what you need to know about this is that this is where you identify which documents you want to be processed through DigitalInk and in what order you want it done. If you don't do anything, the default is it's going to send everything. Now, moving counterclockwise, the next area is up here where it talks about your name, your email address, and a message for the parties. And basically what this message is notice the thing about arbitration and liquidated damages are required to be separately initialed. The sign all feature should not be used by the signer if the document contains one or both of these clauses. That's obviously the purchase contract is the big one that we would use, and you could make a change. I don't know if this is. I'm not going to worry about that. Never mind. I won't worry about that. I'll turn it back to Ed's signature. All right. So then here are the different people that have a role in the transaction. And notice the default is they're already all highlighted. So if you have to, if you click on this, you can disable all of them or enable all of them. Let's say we've disabled all of them. Now, it's not something wrong with your screen, is that these are all blacked out. But let's say we click on this, buyer one, and that's John Buyer, and we want seller one. And the sneaky thing about the counter offer, in fact, let me do this. Let me go here and find the short sale information advisory. Right? I'm going to include this one and even the short sale addendum. Let's say we're doing these, because then I can show you on the short sale information advisory there's a weird thing. All right. So I've highlighted just these two people. Not everybody has to do it digitally, right? So it's very likely that you send it to your buyers, they digitally sign it, they send it back to you, and then you print that out, email it, fax it, or otherwise transport it to the listing agent. Notice here, this up and down over here on the left changes the order in which we want it to be done, and like, for example, it's not common that you have, if you represent the buyer, it's not common, not likely that you have the seller's email address. So unless you have, the point I'm trying to make here is that unless you have an email for somebody on this list, you can't put them on the list. In other words, you can't put the seller on the list and not have an email for the seller. It will not accept it, right? Everybody that's on the list has to have an email address. So if you don't have email addresses, you can't use it. Notice it says add a new party. If you click on this, you could enter the name of the person, their role in the transaction. It could be, let's say you're a broker, right? I don't know why really. Notice that's down here. Notice that this is blue. We need an email address. So we would type that in, and we would need a first name and a last name. The three pieces of information you have to have in order to make this work is the first name, the last name, and the email address. Now, sometimes I've been asked, well, what if the seller, or typically it's a seller, is the trust of somebody? Then if that's true, it may say on the purchase agreement the seller as the trust of Johnson family, right? The Johnson family trust, right? That's the name of the seller. But some individual has to be empowered to sign on behalf of the trust, and you would need to know that name of that person, first, last name, and their email address. So usually where I'm going with this is that it's rare that you have an entire transaction where all the documents are signed electronically. That's very rare, right? Usually you just get your client to do it and you don't worry about the other one. But I'm throwing in the seller and the buyer so that you could just see how it works. So we could add why would we want to add a transaction? Like, why would you add a broker? Let's say there's something you want here, I'm going to go ahead and put this in. I'll show you that. gmail.com. So you can test this out and make up a transaction to play with this and put in your own email address for everybody, and then that would then you can get each person's thing. And why would you have a broker? Let's say there's something you want a person to acknowledge, right? They're not a party to the contract, right? But you want them to acknowledge that they've seen it. Don't ask me for reasons. I'm just here. So we're down here. So we've sort of covered what this area is. You need the first name, you need the last name, and you need the email address, and you set them up here. There's also maybe I'll try and do this now. Let me because it's going to be painful one way or the other. Buyer or seller one. Do you see this underneath buyer one? The counter offer, the dual agency, the short sale information advisory has a place where it will say buyer or seller. And so they don't know, they being DigitalInk doesn't know at the moment when you're starting this up that the person is actually signing twice, or that they appear twice. So what we're going to do, what you need to do is, let me just do the example, right? Let's say that this is the short sale information advisory. When you see it, it'll become clearer. It's the buyer has it's the same buyer as the line above, right? It's still John buyer, right? It's the same guy as above, but what's going to happen is they're going to get 2 emails, and you're going to see why. That's all I can say right now. What you want to do before you do anything is you hit preview, and when you hit preview, this comes up. This is the next big box to look at. Let me see. I'm adding people if I kept. So starting in the upper left, this has save changes, cancel, add signature or initials, add parties. So you can add, the question is what if there's 3 buyers or 3 sellers? The form only has room for 2. You have 2 choices. One is you can do the traditional real estate agent and squeeze in another signature someplace on the page, right? Squeeze in another initials. You can do that with DigitalInk. You can just stick in someplace another place for somebody to sign and stick in another name. The best way to handle that is to use a CAR form, which is a multiple signatures form that basically satisfies all the requirements anyhow. But you can add because this only has one buyer, one seller. What if you have, I mean, two buyers and two sellers? What if you have three? You could add somebody in by clicking on add a signature or initials. You could add a party just like the button before. And then over here, notice it's the color codes. And the ones that are highlighted are the ones that we've selected. And so basically what the color codes show is who's supposed to sign where, right? And so, for example, this is a, notice that matches, that would be for Sally Seller, right? And then, I guess that's it. So this, and then that's just a preview, and then notice down here there's places for the seller's initials and the buyer's initials. The buyer is in black, and this just gives you a preview. Now, if we want to see, well, that's just a preview of agency. I want to see the preview of the purchase contract. We click on, we go up here to this drop-down list, and you pick purchase contract, and then that shows you, again, color coordinating where people are going to initial and sign. The weird one that I've been talking about, but probably have just confused everyone about, has to do with the seller one, buyer one, and the short sale addendum. So this is a short sale information and advisory, which is one of the three special forms that this applies to. And so notice here, here's the buyer and here's the seller. And then we keep going on. Here's the buyer initials, here's the seller initials, and we keep going on. Now, no, this is the part where it gets weird, okay? This is the part where it gets weird because it's basically saying that who is this person, right? Notice that you see there's a choice, seller or buyer, seller or buyer. And so if the buyer is initialing, because we know up here that whoever is initialing here is the buyer, right? We know that, and we know that whoever is initialing here is the seller, but do we know who's the first person on this list? And so notice it says, I highlighted here, it says, and so if I hit enable, add a related field, so what I would do is if this were, let's say the buyer right here, we would select this. Oops, what did I just do? All right, so my this little box here, I can enable the field, which means that it's something that has to be filled out. I could disable the field. I can also make fields optional. So this is a way for me to take a look at it one more time. And so we have the different parties here, and that's what the form, this basically just gives us what the form looks like. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hit Save Changes. Now, I'm still on this page a little bit. There's what's left. Cancel, you know what that means. Send now, or continue to ZipLogic DigitalInk Beta. What is the new thing? Why? And please enter a valid property address. We have to do that to go. Maybe I didn't want to do that now. Let me. Did I lose it? Did I lose it? Let me see. All right. See, I didn't fill out my form. All right. This beta, and we, you know, I shouldn't have done that right away. What do you use the beta for, and why would you do this? Beta has the ability for you to upload your own documents, things that you've made, that somebody else has made, something that's not in zip forms. Right? What if you have forms that are not in zip forms that you would like to have people digitally sign? In order to do that, you need to click on the beta. Now, what beta means is that it doesn't work perfectly yet. They're still working on it, and eventually this is all going to be incorporated into one. But what beta allows you to do is to add other forms, right? And so is this already missing required for party of agent? All right, well, okay, what I want to do is enable all, and we want to have buyer one, that one, and we just want seller one and that one. No, seller one, how about that? Seller one, all right, how about that? All right, and so I'm just going to keep this simple. So, and we're going to pick one document. How about, I just want to do something with this. How about, let me pick, how about the short sale information advisory? I'll just pick this document. And what we're going to do is click on send now. And we're going to wait. All right. I tried to pick a small one. Some of the big ones, it can take a minute or two, you know. And let's see. It says nobody. It says nobody that's watching is paying attention. All right. So this is what happens. We hit send now, and then we wait. Right? Minutes. All right. Now, what this does is it when you're finished. All right. So this shows me the buyers and the sellers. Now, this is we're into the, I had activated the beta. Right? So what I want to do is, I've only added these parties. I could have added another party if I wanted to. I could do it right now. Let's just say, I'll just do this as an example. I've clicked on adding a party, and I'm doing this to show you something really cool. All right, so we've added a broker, all right, Brian Broker. We've clicked on this, and yeah. All right, so we've got buyer one, seller one, and the broker. And we can edit, remove, we can send them an email, action required, and that means they haven't done anything. But what I wanted to do is to show you, all right, let's say I have a document that I want to send. So I click on here. This is something that is not part of zip forms. So I click on choose file, and I have taken the time to seller's agent escrow file. That's not the one I wanted. All right, let me all right, how about this? This is in a form I've modified recently, and so I've chose the file. I hit submit. Please enter title. All right, I hit submit. All right, when you're being okay. So what I have here is two forms now. So up here, this is the parties. I can add a party. I can make edits, remove, I can email something to them. Down here are the documents that I'm having signed. So one of them is the short sale information advisory, which I can view, edit, I could download or remove. And the other one is this receipt for documents. Now let me just click on edit here, because what I hope it doesn't crash. And just to show you, so this is a document. This is a Century 21 Alpha document that I modified recently to reflect updates in the short sale disclosures. It's called Disclosure and Receipt for Documents, for short sale documents, and it has down here whoever you'd be giving them to, right? And so the way this would work is there's date and times and and over here it has to be performed by each party, buyer one. So let's say that this is something for the buyer, right? and the reality is, or let's say the seller. Let me do that because that's more realistic. So what this form is, which you might want to take a look at, if you haven't seen it, this is what it looks like from Alpha Forms, and it has the information about the property. This can be filled out. You understand this is an interactive form, so you could fill it out online yourself. You could put in your name down here, and so this is something we're going to send to the seller, and we want them to know that we put an X here. We've given them. I don't know why it's doing small, probably because. All right, so, and a lot of this we could just type in. All right, so we could put this to. And we could even do the date, or we could have that come in. And then, all right, so let's, actually, I'm just previewing it right now. I don't know why I was getting into all that. So anyhow, seller one. So what we want is for the seller to sign this, right? So sign and date, or how about here, we say sign, and what we do is we put this in here. Pow, that's a signature. If there's more than one, did I lose it? Oops, I lost it. Maybe I didn't. All right, there's one. And we only have one seller. That's why it's stopping me from doing it twice. How about that? Printed name, that would be a text box, right? So they can print out their name, and we can make it, a little bit bigger. And if we want, we can make check boxes. We can make text boxes. We can, now, this thing about, so that's what we've done for seller one. Now, I just want, this is a, so anything that we want, anything we want them to fill out, we do here. What we should have done, but I didn't do because, I'm lazy, is I should have filled all of this out first, right, before I uploaded it with all the information, except for the parts that I want them to sign and that sort of stuff. Now, there's this little drop down where I can delete a field if I make a mistake. Now, what about this stuff down here? Hold, read, acknowledge, agree. Let's say your broker is on your ass all the time because you don't have all the right forms and for your short sale, and so you've prepared this and you want to send it to him, and you want him to say, yes, I've seen it, right? So what I can do, notice I've highlighted broker here, and I move this up here, and I drop it. Is it going to let me drop it up there? Maybe it wants me to drop it down here. Let me see. Oh, that's, how about this? I'll try a different one. Agree. Oh, and so I want him to initial and date. Did I do that right? What am I doing wrong here? It's not letting me do it. The party can read it, but must agree to it as a whole. Well, I don't know why I'm not. Those things aren't going over. So this is a. Oh, here we go. Do you want to leave? I got it. The reason why I didn't see it is because I wasn't looking at it. But what's going to happen now? Notice up here, it says the broker has a read, right? And so what it means is that my broker's going to get a copy. He's going to be able to read it, right? They're going to be sent an email. I also could say I want him to agree to it. And let's say I delete this. I don't want to delete this task. Yes, I do. Come on, delete it. Come on. All right. So I highlight broker again, and I put this someplace. All right. Do you want to? No. So now there's an agreement one, and basically what's going to happen is the broker is going to get something. He's going to have to click on it that said he agrees to it. Now, I'm just making stuff up, you understand? But, so we've done enough of that. So the idea is that, let me see, where am I back here? Professional, All right, so Synology. So what I'm going to do now is, let's say I'm done with this. I'm going to hit activate. Do you want to activate the transaction? Yeah, I do. So I click on yes. This is now and has been sent to the first party. Oh, goody. Maybe I'll get some email today. Let's see. So I go to my inbox and I've got, let's see, here we go, transaction resumed. This transaction with your party has been resumed. I guess I clicked on tag. So they get an email and it looks like this, right? So I access your documents, click here. I click on it. I may have already used John Buyer before. This is what your client is going to see. All right, let's get started. They hit start. They wait. Then there's this, do you accept this? Do you consent to it? You say yeah, you click next. Make up a PIN. The PIN has to be at least 6 characters, 1 digit, and 1 alpha. All right, and then I get to pick how do I want it to look. How about I'm going to go with the default, and I hit sign, and on to view and sign. Come on, come on, come on, come on. And so short sale, action required, initial twice. I hit next. And I know that it doesn't have all the right things because I didn't take the time to fill out the whole form. I just wanted to go through. Now, up here it's going to say remove all signatures, commit all signatures. So I read the form, read the form, read the form. Right here, there's a place to sign. I can commit signatures if I click on this. Oh, at least one field by two. All right, so I click here. John Buyer. All right, that's all I have to do, I guess, on this one, is click on that. And then that's page 1. At page 2, you might need to talk to your clients about how this works. All right, that all looks good. If I hit tab, I'm hitting tab. Oops. I don't know why it's not doing it, but why? Let's see. Tab. Which one? 2 of 3, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 1 of 3. All right, that just shows me the ones I've already done. And I hit number 3. You get the idea now. And so I didn't put in all of these things because I was in too much of a hurry. But now that's why I've done all of them. I've said once the client has done everything, they hit commit signatures, they get this thing that says that their children will be taken from them if they're lying, and they have to click yes. And then we hit review, it's completed. Okay, now going back to, am I still in zip form someplace? Synology, all right, going back here, let's say we go up here, and now notice we have besides sign, we have check status. So we click on check status, and it shows that something happened here. If we click on it, we can hit view. And what is going to show here is this is our status, buyer number 1. Authenticated, it's been complete. Notice seller number 1. Well, that means an email now has to have been sent to the seller, who is me. Let me see, do I need that one? I keep getting a lot of these open. Okay, how about back here? We go back to the inbox. Now, what it says is, once the client has done the e-signatures, they get this nice email that says, Dear John Buyer, thank you for submitting your electronic signature. To access the system and to view your documents, click there. They can, let's just do that so you know, they can print out a copy, right? They have their own little vault, right, that they've got with the documents that they've signed. They can go and read them late at night when they can't sleep, right? there worrying about the transaction. You put in your PIN number, and we hit next. And if this says the action review, come on. And so when they review, notice over here it has the list of the documents: print, download, zoom in, and key. And so what they do is they click on this over here. These are their choices. They could print it, they could download that particular form, they could download them all. All right, so if they want a hard copy, that's where they would get it. Well, let me go back to the email. So that's the thank you one. Also, notice now, you see I put down my email address for all the different parties. If you want to practice this, you make a transaction, fill out all the forms, make yourself the buyer, the listing agent, the seller. You get to see the whole thing from beginning to end, what all the clients see, what all the emails they get. You get everything, right? That's my suggestion. So now the seller has got one. And notice there's the thing about the arbitration, liquidated damages, like I mentioned. So they click on this, and it looks very similar, doesn't it? Right? Now we're back to doing exactly the same thing that we did before. And then they accept it, and they go on, and they have to come up with a PIN. And so on. So the California Association of Realtors website has some frequently asked questions of the same that are in my handout. What I'm going to do is I've been recording this. Not sure why, but I've been recording it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post it on our website. That's the training website. If you don't know about our training website, if you go to the company website and you click on training schedule and then you click on here, this is the new training site, and under the video training I'm going to put this, including the handout that I had, probably tomorrow or some other day, so that it will be saved for posterity, or no, wait a second, posterior or posterity, saved for somebody else. All right, so that's I think it for now. It's not a bad program. It works. It doesn't have all the features that DocuSign has. The idea is you fill out the forms first, put everything in it, because once you've sent the form, you can't modify a form after somebody signed it. You understand? They don't let you do that. So other things. So usually people just use this to get their clients to sign it, so they don't have to drive. You know, you're writing 20 offers, right, on different properties, walking away from the ones you don't want or don't get accepted. You don't want to drive back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So this is just a good way to do that. Let me see how many people made it to the end. Not everybody, that's fine. So are there any questions? Anybody? No? Well, the best way, there are webinars that you can watch. There's training videos that DigitalInk has. The easiest thing to do, this should give you at least a rough idea. Make a transaction, put your name in everywhere for every single party, and then send out all the forms to yourself. Practice, see then you'll see what everything looks like from everybody's perspective and what it looks like when you're done. And that's it. That's cool, and people are dropping out. So I'm going to end the webinar before. Covered what I needed to know. I used it once, then I needed one document.